want to start actually with our Atletico Tucuman update because they were playing as we were recording just now.
Oh, their game finished like at 9:30.
Today, Boca tied 0-0.
Okay.
Therefore, the game Atletico Tucuman had against Argentinos Juniors was big because this is their chance to get back into that rhythm, get back that win that they need to gain momentum. You still have Gimnasia up top with a game in hand waiting. But Atletico Tucuman won 2-1 today.
Oh, thank God.
And they pushed themselves up, and they're currently leading the table.
That's scary, man, because I saw the table, and I was like, dude, they have to win this next game, and thank God they did.
They won it. Gimnasia still has a game in hand, and if they win, they'll go above Tucuman by 1 point. But you know this is going to do a lot for their mentality, man.
It's going to do a lot.
It's going to do a lot, so... to start off the pod like that, man.
What I will say, though, is that I looked, because I was curious, I was like, well... Gimnasia La Plata, I also don't really see them up top in this high of the table. And I looked them up and very similar to Tucuman, almost the exact same story. The only difference is they have one title, but they won that back like in the 1920s.
Damn, man.
So this would be like almost 100 years later in the future winning a title. So, I mean, if Tucuman don't do it, maybe at least Gimnasia do it.
Oh, yeah. Honestly.
But obviously, Tucuman have never won a title in their history, so they still have my full support.
Yeah, they get priority.
They get priority.
Gimnasia will still be a great story as well, man.
Great story.
So a bit of honestly, a rowdy start for Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga so far.
Caught the whole game this weekend.
Oh, for real?
I did.
I mean, I've had people reaching out to me, hitting me up on the side. People are wondering, man, what's Soltero thinking about Bayern, man? They're in 5th with 12 points, Hoffenheim with 13, Freiburg with 14, Dortmund with 15, Union Berlin with 17.
Yes.
And you know what I said to the fans that DM me?
What?
I said Bayern will be top of the table by January. That's what I said to them, man.
The thing is that is what history has shown itself. Bayern have gone off to maybe not this bad of a start, but they have gone off to shaky starts in the past. Every time they've been able to pull away. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen this year, but it's something that easily could happen this year if Bayern want to. What's very interesting about these past results with Bayern is that they actually are missing Lewandowski. They're finally just misfiring, just individually. Whether it's Sane, even Mane low-key, who's going on a little drought right now, Gnabry, Muller, they're low-key relying on Jamal Musiala to be their main scorer. And right now, everyone else just not firing on all cylinders. So you get instances where Bayern aren't scoring and therefore are getting these weird draws. And in this case, this weekend against Augsburg, losing. So... yeah, I mean, Bayern are in a really weird situation right now for sure. But the game itself, man, was fascinating. If you actually saw what happened out on the pitch, so deserved for Augsburg. The atmosphere was really electric. I think Oktoberfest just started in Bavaria. So people are coming out to the game, maybe drinking a couple beers before and after. So the stadium's buzzing, literally and metaphorically. But the Augsburg coach, 38-year-old Enrico Marzen, put on a coaching masterclass. He goes offensive. He elects to have a high press from the get-go and fluster Bayern as soon as the whistle starts. He starts off with a 4-4-2, which I absolutely love because then at that point, you only rely on your back four, no longer a back five, and you only have 2 holding midfielders. He played essentially 4 attacking forwards to press Bayern high and hard. Demirovic, Niederlechner, Andre Hahn, and Berisha put on a perfect performance on how to press Bayern efficiently, but also athletically too, because you have to manage your press. You have to manage it. You can't press hard for 90 minutes. But what they did instead of just chasing the ball, pressing hard, they actually just all started higher up on the pitch. So the back line was already at like halfway point. The 4 midfielders were above that. So they were squeezing Bayern as much as they could. And they met Bayern when Bayern had the ball, basically in Bayern's half. The perfect tactic. Now the thing is, when you high press like this, there's always the chance that you're going to get caught. And the thing is, Augsburg got caught several times. Damn. Mane had a clear-cut chance to go around the keeper and put it through, but he couldn't get past the keeper. Leroy Sané had 2 chances where he got a through ball. He's not one-on-one with the keeper, but he has a clear shot on goal. All he has to do is put it to the side or put it maybe high and up in top bins. But both shots were straight at the keeper. And that's what I was kind of getting at earlier, is that right now they are missing a clinical finisher because they are creating the chances, but they are not finishing them. Because low-key, at the end of the day, Bayern did lose, but they probably deserved a draw. They had 3 clear-cut chances, in my opinion, and didn't put home a single one. That's bad efficiency. If you get 3 chances, you got to at least put in 1, and they put in none. Augsburg, on the other hand, got their chance, put it home, and were able to see out their victory, see out that press. Yes, they did get caught, but they basically relied on what they were hoping to happen, just a little bit of luck, right? When you play a team like Bayern, when you play a team like Manchester City, PSG, yes, you can put on a good master plan, but when you don't have the resources, you always have to rely on just a tiny bit of luck. And this way, it actually went in Augsburg's favor, which is, I love to see that, man. When I approach the game, I'm always usually rooting for the underdog. Augsburg put on an incredible underdog performance, so much so that they actually got the 3 points at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think maybe there's an element here of us and I guess the general public underestimating the gravity of Robert Lewandowski. We all said that
was my
Bayern
takeaway.
could just replace him and be fine afterwards because they're so powerful and strong in every other single position. But then you see what Lewandowski's doing in La Liga. And how that same effect, that same gravity, that same potential to win yourself a game, win your team a game, he's doing that for Barcelona now with every single game that he's played. They look magical. They look like the Barcelona of old, man, with how they're just stringing out these victories. And Robert Lewandowski is leading the league already in scoring and doing the same thing to La Liga that he did with Bundesliga.
Exactly.
And so he's shutting up all those people that said it was just Bundesliga tax, that he was just getting those big numbers over there because of a
inflation.
weaker league. We're seeing that is not the case at all.
Yes.
Robert's gravity and effect on the pitch is something that should not be underestimated, and that's what's happening in Bayern now. They try to replace it with a star in Sadio Mane, but maybe he's having a little trouble adjusting to the team. Maybe he's having a little trouble finding his form because when he was back at Liverpool, if he ever got a job like that, he had killer options in Mohamed Salah, Diego Jota, Roberto Firmino, Luis Diaz if necessary. That's all gone now. Now you have different options, but maybe there's more of a reliance on him to be that go-to striker that Robert Lewandowski was.
Yeah.
And he's seeing the responsibility at hand for him now, and he's struggling a little bit. He'll probably get back on form soon, but it's interesting to see that now these results are starting to pile up. And is this season shaping up to be the season where Bayern Munich is finally trumped and we see a new team win?
Yes, and I had so many revelations watching this game. For the first one being what you just said about Lewandowski, perfectly put. I'm not even going to repeat anything because you just exactly explained my revelation on Lewandowski and Bayern's relationship in the sense that they're missing Lewandowski essentially. Another big takeaway was actually Mane. Bro, if you saw this game, Mane looked frustrated. He actually looked genuinely pissed out on that pitch. And I haven't seen an unhappy Mane out on the field, and I don't know if ever.
Oh, yeah.
Mane is that type of player who plays with a smile on his face. Yeah. He's a dog out there. He just runs and he goes at you. He's aggressive, man. And what I saw out there in that Bayern jersey, I was like, dang, this is not the Mane who played at Liverpool. And just in multiple facets, as you just said, he doesn't have Firmino to link up with. He doesn't have Salah to help him on the other side of the wing. He doesn't have creative midfielders underneath him or creative fullbacks in Alexander-Arnold or Andy Robertson underneath him either. Those are completely different players now that he's playing with. Still high caliber players, but it's a completely different style of play. And I think Mane's really feeling it now. 7-8 games into the season, things are just different. Now, the thing is, Mane still has that class to figure things out. I don't think it's dire for Mane, but he is on a little of a goal drought, and he just doesn't look as happy, which low-key, I was like, dang, Mane in a Bayern jersey, I don't like it. That was one of my takeaways.
The right move ultimately, man.
Ultimately, what I got out of this Augsburg game, man, I was like, dude, I don't know if this was the right move for Mane. I don't know what the right move was. Maybe just trying to find a way to stay at Liverpool. But I don't know if Bayern was it, just because the playing style is so different team to team. But again, he's still a fantastic player, and I still think he has a lot to give Bayern. That's the thing. Yeah. And it's not dire, like I said. Mane can still produce here in the Bundesliga. He can still produce in the Champions League, and he will. From like a personal preference of being a Sadio Mane fan, I
yeah,
don't
with
like it.
the arc of his career, where it was looking like it was going, and what he achieved at Liverpool, you would think that maybe you would think that he would be somewhere that is more fitting for him than what this Bayern Munich squad has been able to give to him. But my thing is, though, it's just so confusing, man. I feel so led on by this Bayern team because midweek they put on an absolute masterclass against Barcelona, and they look like the Bayern of old, winning those games and still dominating Barcelona in the same little brother fashion that they have for years. And I saw that and I was like, okay, Bayern's fine, man. They're fine. They're starting off a little shaky, but they're fine. But then they get back into the league and it's the same type of result and a detrimental one that ended up in a loss for them, man.
Yeah, and what I actually saw against Augsburg, first of all, Augsburg played so well, and they really met up to their opponents in that sense.
Good for them.
Yeah, really good for them. But what I saw from Bayern was, they looked a little hungover. They looked indifferent. And I'm wondering if they're just getting tired of the Bundesliga from that sense. Like, are they just, when you play such a big game midweek, especially with all of the headlines, Lewandowski coming back, you've been beating Barcelona for the last, 7 games. Can they continue it? And they did. They were able to pull it off. Then you have to go on the road to Augsburg in the Bundesliga. It's just very different, very, very different. But as you said, it is confusing, though, because Bayern have done this for a decade now. Why is this year a little bit different? And maybe it goes back to the idea of they don't have a number 9 to rely on, which they always have had.
But what makes it so exciting, man, is that this might be the first year where we can have an actual title race.
And this is what I'm hoping for. Right now, we have Union Berlin looking absolutely incredible. But not even that. Right underneath them, Freiburg, Borussia Mönchengladbach have had very, very good starts to the season. Maybe you add in Dortmund. Honestly, I think Freiburg and Gladbach are better. I'm going to be completely honest. And Berlin are for sure better. Berlin are probably the best team in the Bundesliga right now. Hoffenheim's there too. Yeah, Hoffenheim's there too. But again, Borussia Mönchengladbach have done this before, though. They've kept it high and hard against Bayern for 20 games of the season, and then they let go. They let go with 12 to 13 games left. And Freiburg had a similar thing last year. They had a really, really good start to the season, and then they let go a little bit. But for Freiburg, it's a little bit more understandable because they don't have the resources of even a Mönchengladbach. Yeah. So I understood that. But Freiburg are here again, meaning that their progress last year wasn't for nothing. They're here, and they did something right last year, and they're building on that. So that's great. And even Leipzig. We've seen Leipzig actually many times in these last couple years, over the last 7 years, keep it high and tight against Bayern throughout the course of the season. But with 10 games left, they always let go. So I'm wondering, Berlin have never been in this position, at least in recent memory. Maybe Berlin breaks that trend, but they very easily could just fall back into that trend and let go with 10, 12 games remaining in the season. So there's still so much football to be had in Germany. It's very difficult to tell, even though Bayern aren't looking good. They're not looking good in the Bundesliga, but there's still so much football to be had that I'm not going to say anything yet, but bro, you'll know I'll be catching every Berlin and Freiburg game right now because they're looking incredible. And again, as people say, what do I think about the Bundesliga? The last thing I said in my big Bundesliga rant was, at the end of the day, I'm actually cheering for these teams that aren't called Bayern Munich. That's why I watch football. I don't watch football to see Manchester City, PSG, Bayern Munich dominate. That's not why I watch the sport. I watch it to see Gladbach, Freiburg, Hoffenheim, Berlin try to do something special.
Hey, ever since you had that rant, these teams been picking it up, bro.
Maybe they heard me.
That's the impact of the give and go, man. God, Atletico Tucuman suddenly playing for their lives, man. Hey, I'm just saying, there's a coincidence.
That's true.
Maradona playing his life out of Napoli since we mentioned him.
That's true, dude. That's very true.
Come on now. Chivas, I predicted they would be in the playoffs. I'll keep going. I keep going, man.
My final takeaway doesn't even have to really do with the Bundesliga, but in a way it kind of does. But Ricardo Pepi. So Pepi got that move to Augsburg last year. And obviously he actually got loaned to Groningen in the Eredivisie, the Dutch league. Seeing Augsburg play and seeing their front four of Demirovic, Berisha, Niederlechner, and Hahn, I was like, damn. It'd be really hard for Pepi to come into this team like that and just have an immediate impact. Low-key, I haven't seen an Augsburg game in probably over a year. This is my first time seeing them in a while. So I was always curious. I was like, why isn't he succeeding? What's the problem? Yeah, I was wondering that because I just would see I'd only see him make a couple bench appearances. I'd see he'd get like 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there. And I was like, dang, like, why is the coach not playing him? But after seeing the day, even if Augsburg go on just to have like a mid-season, there's some good footballers on this team, man. Yeah. There's some really good footballers on this team. And if you have to compete with that, coming from just an MLS background and nothing else,
it's tough.
that is really, really tough. Because when you think about, like, for example, Gio Reyna or Christian Pulisic, who have had Bundesliga experience, they were raised in the Bundesliga. They grew up in Europe. For Pepe to grow up in Texas, have his background just be FC Dallas, and then go to Augsburg, that's insane.
No, yeah, that's the almost like the curse that CONCACAF specific players are given when they make that move over to Europe, because I can't tell you how many times I've gone through the same experience of whether it's an American, a Mexican, a Costa Rican, that you find out they transfer over to Europe going straight from the CONCACAF, and checking up on them and always just seeing that lack of minutes. They get like 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But it's just, I think it's stylistically what makes a biggest factor, because it's so hard to adapt to the way they play over there when it's so different from what we do over here.
Exactly.
But it's also so cool to see when they are able to actually play a prominent role. Yeah. For example, I would say Santi Jimenez hasn't made his way into the first team, but in the minutes he's gotten, he's been killer, man. He's been doing great. But then also the biggest example that I saw recently was Jorge Sanchez playing an entire half of football against Liverpool at Anfield, being assigned the role of defending Luis Diaz for the entirety of that second half, and in my opinion, holding his own. When I saw that, man, I was like a proud father watching that, man. I was like,
he's been there for a month.
A month, bro. And that's a CONCACAF-born player.
Yeah, that's
who
dope.
Grew up in Ligue MX. Is suddenly on one of the biggest stages on Europe, playing in a Champions League night, defending one of the most dangerous players in the world, and honestly holding his own. And I was proud, man. I was proud.
Yeah.
And so with Pepe, it's the same type of thing. He's got to figure out how to adapt his style of football to the European way, but more specifically the Augsburg way, man, because it sounds like they have a specific way of football.
Oh, dude, they do. And my last takeaway, really like this coach.
Yeah.
Really like this coach, man. He low-key, if you look him up, he low-key looks like a love child of Steven El Shaarawy and David Beckham.
Oh shit!
Look him up, bro. Look him up. And he honestly, he's got good fashion too. He's wearing like a nice black thin jacket. Yeah. I was like, okay, this coach knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, the moment you said German and press, I was like, oh, okay, that's gonna be another one.
He's an innovator. Yeah. This season, specifically with Augsburg, is his first foray into top division coaching. So he's coached like in third, fourth divisions. I think he was in Dortmund's like Dortmund 2, Dortmund 3 team or whatever. Yeah. But this is his first main coaching position job. And he's so far looking good, at least with his ideas. Low-key looking at how Marzen set up Augsburg to specifically play this Bayern team. Because I don't think Augsburg play this way every game. It actually has really shown me that when these lower teams play, for example, Bayern Munich, and I've seen it in France too, when these lower teams play against PSG, they almost take pride in it. They're like, all right, boys, this is going to be once out of the 2 times we get to play the best team in our league. Let's give them hell. Let's go out and do everything that we can to somehow get points from them. Because I've seen a lot of PSG games, and low-key, dude, most teams are keeping it really tight. Obviously, PSG are still winning, but for example, Brest last week, they played great. And his Brest, man, like no disrespect, but they're a really low team in France, and they were able to keep it 1-0 and actually had a penalty to make it 1-1 at one point, but unfortunately got blocked. They played a really, really good game plan, very similar to where just press hard, be as physical as you can, and then low-key players show out. They're like, look, I'm playing against PSG. I gotta be on it tonight. And they do. Onarat and Slimani had really, really good games in that PSG Brest game. And then similar thing here with Augsburg and Bayern, dude. Again, those 4 players that I highlighted, Carlos Grueso, the Ecuadorian in the midfield, had really good games. Oh, and I haven't even mentioned, dude, the goalkeeper of Augsburg put on a masterclass goalkeeping performance. He didn't make a single mistake, and he had to make like 3 clear-cut saves against these Bayern players. He was phenomenal. And I think he's Polish. I'm not sure if he's going to get called called up, but he was fantastic, dude. So these players are really relishing these opportunities, and it's kind of funny. I was like, dude, what if like these coaches have like a group chat with all the other coaches, and they're like, hey, I just beat Bayern 1-0.
Who's
up?
Talking shit to each other.
Dude,
right?
gotta be
like meeting up for dinners afterwards.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Talking like, hey, you got last night.
I was like, when I had my analysis when Monaco played PSG and got that 1-1 draw and almost nearly beat them, I'm like, dude, like this coach must be feeling so good because his plan worked. It worked.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm loving that these lower teams are really going at these big teams. But then you have teams like Manchester City that can't even be touched.
Oh, can't
even be touched, dude.
But on the other side, you just mentioned PSG. I want to talk about them real quick. I saw the PSG versus Lyon matchup, and I just want to say a few things because I brought up Lyon, honestly, like 2 weeks into this season of the give and go, and I made the claim that Lyon would be the second best team in France. But then Wonder Boy sensation, my favorite player on the team, Paqueta, gets kidnapped
by West Ham.
Day,
dude.
Low key might have been a downgrade, bro.
I think it is.
Might have been a downgrade.
West Ham started so bad of the season. They honestly don't look that much better. I think they just lost.
The relegation zone.
Yeah,
right
dude.
now.
They just lost against Everton, and it's just like, why, Lucas?
Yeah,
why?
Why'd you have to take him, man? He was a clinical part of why Lyon was Lyon, feeding his teammates, creating and dancing his way through the French league, man.
Yeah,
I loved it. But the moment he got taken away from that, I was like, well, God damn it, man. That's you can put the nail in that coffin already, man. That one's done there. You fast forward, Lyon starts struggling a little bit. They start struggling to get results, and they have a game scheduled to play against PSG at home, at Lyon's home. And I watch it because I want to just check in on the team and see how they're doing since that prediction.
How was it?
Man, biggest takeaway, man, Lacazette ain't it, man.
Yeah.
Lacazette is not it.
Damn.
Yeah, it was actually a mistake on Lyon's side to get him back, man. They fucked up. They thought they were going to get the Lacazette of the past, but they got the Lacazette of now, which is a beaten down version of what he used to be. He had a clear-cut opportunity, dude. He's within 5 yards. The ball's coming in strong, but he has a clear opportunity wide open to hit that ball in. Doesn't even hit the target, man.
Jesus.
Off to the side. It grazes the top of his bald head. And I just look over at my brother, and I'm like, he ain't it, bro.
Yeah.
It ain't it. I realized it in that moment. You look elsewhere, and Lyon does have good options. They have a good right back. They have a Brazilian center back. What's his name? Thiago Mendes, I think is his name.
Thiago Mendes, yeah.
Incredible game, man. He basically pocketed Mbappe, which I thought was really impressive.
Yeah.
PSG only won that game 1-0. It could have been more if they had finished better. But the magic of Messi once again stood out.
Amen.
Got himself a goal in that game with an assist from Neymar. They're doing incredible, those two little munchkins. I was focused on Lyon. They have Cacaret in the middle of that field. A good presence, but, man, I was watching and I'm like, I just don't think he's up to that level yet. I don't think he's PSG level yet. Yeah. I do think he has a potential, but he's not there yet. And overall, Lyon, that was kind of the same old message with all of them. They're good, but they're not great. Yeah. And you just saw it because they had opportunities, man. Toko Ekambi was so active on the wing trying to produce an opportunity, and he did multiple times. There's a point where PSG was a little bit on the ropes with how Lyon was pressing them. But when it came to that final ball, when it came to that final play, you just knew, man. You just knew watching it that they wouldn't be able to generate
nothing was there at the end.
That finishing effort. And it's annoying watching those type of games, man, because it's almost like the opposing team knows. Like they allow themselves to sit back a little bit and let them come at them because in the back of their heads, they knew that they just didn't have the quality to score in a moment as big as this against an opponent as big as this. Damn. So watching all that unfold, I was like, it ain't Lyon's year this year, man. Instead, I think the second best team in France is Marseille, who we've slept on a little bit in this podcast, man.
I saw them play this weekend, actually.
Yeah.
Marseille have a great team. They have a great team, but in a similar vein, maybe not as drastic, I feel like they're just not enough. There's just not enough on that Marseille team for me to genuinely think that they could actually go toe-to-toe with PSG. I think they're missing. I don't know what they're missing. Maybe it's just pure quality, like pound for pound in every single position. They have really, really good players, but I don't see it. I don't see Marseille, honestly, doing anything big this season. I think they'll stay with maybe PSG till like Christmas time frame. But then after that, man, I don't see Marseille going far, dude. I really don't.
That's kind of the point I want to get at is that, you know, you have some other notable teams with Lens and Lorient also in the top 5. But I think I'm realizing amongst the season goes that this is going to be a pretty weak French league, Ligue 1, outside of PSG. There really is no other second or third team that I think is going to be able to do anything special, maybe within Europe in the Conference League or the Europa League. I don't see it anymore. Marseille got pounced by Tottenham in the Champions League.
Oh, yeah.
So like their true colors got revealed.
Oh, yeah.
It's really just PSG this year. There really is going to be
so.
no good second option. And it's a little saddening realizing that, because you do have some fun teams. You do. But contextually, within the scope of European football, they're not that good.
They're not that good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we made this point a while ago. I don't remember if it was on a live stream or not, but I remember we've had so many second and third place French teams in the Champions League just get absolutely battered by Spanish, English, and German teams.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not PSG, even if you have a good season in Ligue 1, you do pretty poorly contextually in the scope of all of Europe. Yeah. And honestly, I think this just echoes it. We're still in that phase of French football. Second place in town. There's a big drop in quality, man, from first place. Yeah. So yeah, I completely agree.
Hey, maybe this is Portugal's year to jump into the top 5 category, because you got teams like Sporting CP beating Tottenham.
Oh, dude, that was crazy,
Gotta
man.
Mention it,
that was
man.
absolutely
Those
crazy.
are the results you're gonna need to be able to overcome a league like Ligue 1, man.
Dude, what the hell? Because I saw Sporting play like 3 weeks ago, and they were ass, man. They were horrible.
Yeah.
So they've really, like, I guess that was their turning point. That was their turning point. That loss against Porto in the league, they're like, oh, we got to play way better than this, boys. We got to play way better than this. And they have.
Well, yeah, they were smart. They managed to keep that game 0-0 for all 90 minutes.
The whole 90 minutes.
It was in the last 5 minutes where they were just able to get back-to-back goals, because once you score a goal in Portugal, man, that crowd goes crazy, man. Yeah. Some of the best atmospheres in Portugal. And they got that goal, scored back-to-back goal. And I got to harp on Tottenham a little bit, just a little bit, because I do think this is almost like a bump in the road. I don't actually think this is going to affect Tottenham within the long scope of their season. I think they kind of fell asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
To continue with my street
analogy.
They fell asleep at the wheel. They were a little lackluster. They didn't look as clinical and as awake, honestly, playing Sporting CP away from home. And Sporting CP, I give them credit for finding a way to neutralize this super attack-minded Tottenham squad that laid 6 fucking goals on Leicester this past weekend. So credit to Sporting CP.
Yeah,
and like you said, maybe this is a turning point for them, and I hope it is, because we need that third strong Portuguese team to come along, man. To really push the envelope in Portugal.
That'd be dope. And low-key, this year, it might be Benfica and Sporting as far as like the Portuguese teams that could do something in the Champions League.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I don't know. Benfica got off to a good start in Champions League, man. They've gotten off to a great start. And actually, both of them, I think, have 6 points. Mm-hmm. So, and didn't Porto get absolutely rocked? They got rocked, bro.
Who'd they play?
They lost like 4-0 against Bruges, dude. Bruges. And now it's funny because I've actually seen both Porto and Bruges play like in weeks prior, and I did not see that in Bruges, and I did not see that in Porto. Like, I just didn't see it. So these Champions League guys completely different than club level, and we actually said that about Bayern too. Mm-hmm. Bayern losing to Augsburg at the weekend, but before that, going crazy on Barca.
Great. I mentioned Tottenham beating Leicester. Bro, is Leicester gonna get relegated, man?
I think so, dude. They cannot defend. They can't.
And you can just tell, man, when you watch a team of low quality play, and they go up or they score a goal, they manage to stay in it, just like they did against Tottenham and just like they did against Brighton a couple of weeks ago. But you can just tell, man, their inability to keep the game level. Good Lord, man. The same thing. It's the repeat of what happened to Brighton. It's happened to them at Tottenham with one more goal involved.
Yep.
Good Lord, man. It's
bad.
really bad. And not even the way that not even the fact that they're so wide open, but the way that they're conceding, man. Like, for example, the most clinical part of that Tottenham Leicester game was when Wilfred Ndidi lost the ball in the middle of the field when they were tied.
That was horrible.
I'm like, bro, the game is tied. This is your chance to string out a point in North London. And a mistake like that, man.
It was really bad.
Imagine being like James Maddison. You just scored a beauty of a goal to keep the game tied. You feel good about yourself. But then you look back for a second, and your teammate is just losing the ball like that, man.
Yeah.
How frustrating that must be to you. Just be like, God damn, like, guys, we're trying to get back in this.
We're trying to win this game, guys.
Immediately, Indeed is like, I might need another goal from you, James. You're just like, fuck, dude. Like, Jesus, I can't do it, man. I can't do that much. To me, man, I've been saying it since we started this pod early on, man. I am not a big Brendan Rodgers fan.
You did say that, and
I don't see it, man.
I'm surprised that he hasn't been sacked yet, considering what this is 6 losses in a row.
Yeah,
after the 4th in a row, man. Like that's a lot. Like I could understand being winless, but all straight losses, man.
It's frustrating.
That's pathetic.
It's so annoying because, like, what do you actually have if you're Brendan Rodgers to bank on? Like, what are they? What are they holding on to? An FA Cup win back when COVID protocols were still in place, bro? Like, the way his name has carried him throughout this job. That's all it is now. It's just his fucking name.
Yeah.
He should have been fired fucking 3 weeks ago.
He really should have, though. And another thing that I guess kind of is out of Rodgers' hands, though, is I would say offensively, every single player, maybe besides Madison, is out of form. Harvey Barnes used to be a menace down that wing. Used to be an absolute menace. Now, the guy can't even make more than like 3 touches on the ball before getting it stolen, dude. His dribbling effect is completely gone. Jamie Vardy, unfortunately, I think his age is now showing, unfortunately. Ayose Perez.
I would never disrespect him.
I'll never disrespect Vardy.
No, never.
But unfortunately, I think he's just a little too old now. Ayose Perez, form completely gone. I don't know what happened to him, bro. He could have been a decent Premier League striker, but it just never worked out for him. And he's gotten worse, honestly. You're relying on Patson Daka, but I don't think he's going to be your go-to guy. He's going to get you some goals, but ultimately you're probably going to need someone a little bit more clinical. Yeah. Probably their only saving grace is Yuri Tielemans.
Has to be.
That's it.
And James Maddison.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Lifeless, man. Lifeless. But I don't know. You don't think this is one of those teams that they just get 2 wins in a row and suddenly they're out of the relegation zone and they're fine? Like, maybe I do think they're like a below 15 ranked team in the Premier League, but to think that they get relegated, man.
I know that'd be insane. But the problem is, dude, what it's going to take is for like 5 to 6 of their players, half of their starting 11 to find form. Half. Like if it was just 1 or 2 players who are out of form, like, they cost us the game, that'd be doable because they eventually find that form. You need half of the goddamn team to somehow fix themselves. That's going to take a lot, man. Yeah. And what it might take is a coaching change. But they need to do that soon, bro, before it gets too bad. Yeah. Luckily, Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest have also cannot find a way to really
Nottingham
win.
Forest is in 19th, I think. Yeah. And then in 18th, you have West Ham.
Yeah,
West Ham, but I don't think they'll be relegated. There's no chance.
I think they'll figure out a way just because pound for pound, their quality is so much higher than Leicester. But even then, bro, West Ham are playing really weird.
If you're a Hammer fan, bro, you're
I'm
pissed,
disgusted.
bro.
I'm disgusted.
You're disgusted. You're not even aiming for like a top 8 finish anymore.
No. I'm begging for 14th place. Begging.
Disappointing with how they've been able to perform these past few years, kind of just being in the mix of like that top 8.
God,
so fucking annoying, man.
So annoying.
Yeah,
and it's the same players that have been here for the last like 2 years.
No, well, that's kind of they spent money though this offseason. They brought in Scamacca. Lucas Paqueta is a huge fucking name, but I don't think he's as good of a fit at West Ham as he was for Lyon.
I don't think he's a good fit at West Ham, bro. Yeah. I think that's what it comes down to. He should have gone to any other club.
Upgraded, bro.
He should have upgraded. Yeah. Maybe even make a lateral move. Yeah. God damn it. It's so annoying that he went to West Ham, bro. Truly.
Yeah, but I do think they'll get out of the relegation zone. I think they'll be okay.
On the converse side, talking about shitty Premier League teams, if we go the exact opposite way, man, talk about Manchester City. I remember I texted you earlier this week after that Dortmund game.
Yes.
And I said, being up a goal against Manchester City literally means nothing. It means nothing. And that's insane. A goal, one of the most like prized possession in all of sports, means nothing if you're playing against Manchester City. How many times already? We're only like 7 games into the season in the Premier League, just the Premier League. That 3-1 when 3-1 Newcastle were up.
Dude, to me that was such a big indicator how good Man City is.
Yeah, man. Bro. They came back low key like it was nothing. And honestly, the only reation why they didn't score 4 is because Haaland was still just figuring it out. It was like the second game or third game of the season.
Man City didn't even play well that game. And Newcastle played the game of their lives.
Exactly. And then when we were in Portugal, Manchester City played Crystal Palace. 2-0 Crystal Palace. 2-0. And it's funny because when Palace went up 2-0, the main commentator was like, Palace making history right now. They're gonna make a story, and then the color commentator is like, or the start of a story maybe. He knew that Manchester City were somehow gonna come back, and by the time Manchester City scored their 4th straight goal in that game, the color commentator was just go. He was like prophesizing. He was like, Manchester City, the gods of Europe, the gods of Ligue have done it again. And I'm just like, my God. Yeah. And then the same thing happens against Dortmund. It's 1-0 Champions League, but what happens? Erling Haaland comes to town. Manchester City as a unit show up. They turn it on. And once they turn it on, they cannot be stopped.
I haven't been able to see it get stopped, man.
Yeah.
Only the mighty Real Madrid somehow found a way to get past. I can't believe they got past them in the Champions League semifinal.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Like that was the only kryptonite available that could have done it, and they did it because outside of that, Man City at this point has earned the respect of, if you get a goal against them, it's meaningless. That's the respect you have to have for Man City when you play them now.
Yeah, you can't, at this point, don't even celebrate until you're 4 goals up.
Yeah.
You can't even get there.
Yeah. I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about the Invincibles from Arsenal, their magical journey. And I asked myself the question, do I ever see Manchester City being able to achieve an undefeated season in the Premier League? Whoa. And I just wonder, man. I wonder if this might be the team that could do it, because the way that they've been able to pull out these results, man, it's ridiculous, man. To be able to be up 2-0 and lose that lead.
Yeah.
And then lose the game by 2 goals.
I know. And we saw it at the end of the season when Liverpool needed it. Yeah. Where we saw then Aston Villa go up against Manchester City. What's going to happen? Can City come back? Oh, they came back, and they came back hard, man. This is just what they do.
Yeah. Because normally the Man City that we know would have lost that game to Crystal Palace. They would have. That would have been the one-off. They usually lose 1 to 3 games a season, and Crystal Palace surprisingly has had their number in that sense. Yeah. But this time you see them go up 2-0, and in comes Erling Haaland, boy wonder kid, superstar, whatever you want to call him. Hat trick. Hat trick to save yourself. Yeah. Not 1 point, but all 3 points. Yeah. Gets you everything possible. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself and say some dumb football podcast bullshit where I'm like, Man City's going undefeated. But if there's a team that could do it, it could be them.
I think I actually really like this take, because maybe it's not so far-fetched, man. This could be the team that does it. And I think, as cliche as it is, or as apparent as it is, it's Erling Haaland, man. He cannot touch a ball for 30 minutes and then score in the 31st minute. He has that effect that no other striker on this planet has. Yeah. And that right there can keep you from losing a game. Yeah. So if there's a team that can do it, it might be the City team, bro.
Yeah. Arsenal and Tottenham staying with Man City so far.
Thank God.
Staying with them so far.
Yeah.
Arsenal get a huge 3-0 win against, I believe, Brentford.
Brentford, yeah.
Looking good as always. They picked up right where they left off following that Man City loss.
Exactly.
So good for them, man.
Yeah.
Good for them. And same with Tottenham, 6-2 win against Leicester.
Heung Min Son.
Coming
his goals, man?
Dude, what the
God
damn,
man. No one hits a ball like Heung Min Son, dude. Nobody.
He makes it look so easy, too, man. Like, I could just do that in my backyard. Like, he slings it, bro. He whips that ball.
Bro. Right foot, left foot, don't matter.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. He's a joy to watch when he's on it.
It reminds me a bit of Robin with how he had, like, his signature cut inside move and then put it top bins. Heung Min Son has, like, a signature, like, outside the box, curved finesse shot that just falls into the corner, high or low, no matter what.
Don't matter.
And he just finds a way to get it back in the back of the net. He's a born natural goal scorer.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he had that moment, because for a minute there, for a second, there's a little bit of skepticism towards, is he losing his form? What's going on? Nah, he's fine.
Yeah, because he didn't even start the game either.
He's fine.
He came off the bench to do that, and he responded as Conte's like, that's my boy right there. He made the right decision. Son's back now.
Yeah, he needed those couple games off.
Exactly.
Charleston got a confidence boost in the meantime.
That too.
Yeah, Conte's managing right now.
Conte's managing, dude. God damn.
The America versus Chivas result.
Why the sad face?
Fun game, man. Oh, man. I thought this would have been it, man.
You had me thinking it was, too.
I thought this was going to be
hyped it up. But the thing is, there's truth there. There's truth there.
Good Lord, man. Even still, Alexis Vega, man. Alexis Vega. He almost, did you see that near banger he scored?
Yeah, I did.
Free kick?
Yeah.
Ay, man. If that would have gone in, man. But now 4 minutes in, penalty to America, they score. Henry Martin does the Cuauhtémoc Blanco tribute celebration, followed by another America goal to put them up 2-0. And then afterwards, Chivas making a push to come back. Chicote Calderon scoring a goal, gets us back in the game, 2-1. And then controversy ensues with Ochoa, what could be incredible save or goal that crossed the line just barely. We don't really know. And it's crazy seeing so many different camera angles of what happened in that moment. But ultimately, man, I actually think it didn't go past the line.
Okay.
I don't think it went past the line. And that sucks saying. I hate saying that as a Chivas fan, but I think the refs got it right. I think it was an incredible save by Ochoa, man. To have the arm strength to push that shit out. I think what doesn't bother me so much about this loss is that I do think America deserved it at the end of the day, because after that moment, Chivas couldn't really get on top of the ball and like produce another opportunity. America actually almost scored another goal. So to me, they were the better team on the day. It sucks to say that. I fucking hate how it feels, but it's all right. We got Ligue coming up. Yeah. We're in the mix now.
Anything's possible at that point.
We'll see him in the final, bro. We'll see him in the final.
Actually, that'd be a hell of a final.
Yeah, good one.
But I think as we prefaced it before the game, right now, even though Toluca at one point looked really good, Monterrey at one point looked really good, Tigres y Santos technically are up high in the table, technically. I don't see any of those teams stopping America. I really don't.
You think they found their form now?
I think they found their form, but so much so if you have to play them over 2 legs, man, I don't see a team beating America. I really don't. Maybe if it was like a one-off game, like in this type of Clásico situation, sure. But over 2 legs, I don't think there's a team right now in Mexico that could actually beat America.
Yeah. I will say, man, it was nice to see the Azteca buzzing like that, man. Might be the most packed I've seen Azteca in a while.
Yeah. No, dude, it was packed, yeah.
Yeah, it was good to see. So you got those fans back in place, man. That could be a really fun title run if you're an America fan.
That actually could be a really fun title run, yeah.
So we'll see. But still, Monterrey is right behind them by 1 point. And they've actually lost less games than America this whole season. So they've been more consistent throughout the whole season. But America is obviously on this godlike form right now.
For me, Monterrey, again, have had a really, really good season. But offensively, I think they've lost a bit of form, just a tiny bit, and I think that'll matter going into Ligue when you really need a goal, especially against a pretty solid, well-formed team like America. You need to be firing. You need to be on it on both wings and up top. And right now, I think Monterrey have just lost that just a little bit. Toluca, the same thing, man. Toluca looks so good in the first 8 games of the season. Since then, though, their offense is just not working right now, at least not as efficiently. Whereas America, they have stayed consistent. They've stayed true. They're averaging like 2 goals a game right now. Bro. So if anything, it's just reverse. America right now, I see them as the only team that offensively and defensively are remaining consistent.
Bro, if you're Tata Martino, man, why not just start the offensive line for America for Mexico, man?
Yeah.
Henry Martin. Sendejas, I know, is acting up a little bit.
Yeah.
They're talking about him potentially even going to the U.S. Did you see that shit?
Wait, really?
Pulisic reached out to Berhalter, wanting him to kind of lure Sendejas into the national squad because he actually hasn't picked a nationality to play for.
No.
Yeah. Apparently, Pulisic recognized his talent.
Holy shit!
Because Sendejas has been really, him and Tata are beefing. They're having trouble. Like,
wait, really?
Yeah.
So Tata just won't pick him, and Sendejas doesn't like it.
Yeah, there's like some beef between them two, like that they don't see eye to eye.
Dude,
and so he's not gonna call him up.
The beef an international coach can have with their players, man.
Yeah,
I'm starting to really see a lot of it, and I don't like it.
Dude, I heard a Taylor Twellman podcast at the middle of the week, and he was talking about how I think it was in 2006, Bruce Arena just didn't like him. Didn't like Taylor Twellman. And at the time, that whole calendar year, he was the leading American scorer.
Yeah, Twellman banged in goals in the MLS, bro. Banged him in.
Across all leagues, I mean, he was the highest scoring American, and Bruce Arena didn't call him up to the World Cup squad.
Oh.
And he was talking about how, and Twellman on the podcast was just like, no, like I could have scored 100 goals that season. I wasn't going to get called up. He just didn't like me. And he was there with Jimmy Conrad, who's also a U.S. American soccer player.
Oh, my God.
And he said the same thing about the following coach, who was like, they try to phase players out and bring new players in. And sometimes you're just part of that pack that just doesn't get phased in. And so no matter what you do, you just can't get that call up. Can you imagine how frustrating that must be?
It's so frustrating.
Because at least at the club level, there's a level of recognizing your talent.
Yeah.
It's putting your bias aside, seeing that a player is really good, your team needs it, you go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But in a national team, ego gets involved, man.
No, ego gets heavily involved on the international stage, man. And I hate to see it. If I was watching football intently back in 2006 and I saw Twellman not get called up, even though he was scoring that many goals, oh, dude, I would have been incensed. I would have been enraged, man. As a fan, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But that's how drastic it can get when it comes to this ego and coaching selections, man. It can get that bad.
Yeah.
Where it's so apparent you have to pick him, but the coach can actually just say no.
No.
And that is bizarre. There doesn't have to be a reason.
No. It got personal too, because apparently the other players that didn't get called up, that were like on the fence of maybe getting called up, they got emails and messages saying like, hey, we couldn't call you out for the World Cup. But Tolman didn't get anything.
Oh,
he didn't get anything.
So it got petty.
It got petty.
It got
personal, man. And the whole pod, it was really good with him and with Jimmy Conrad and his co-host. It was a really good podcast. If y'all want to look it up, he talks about that experience, man. It's nuts.
Shit, that would hurt me, man. That would hurt me as a fan, as a player, as a teammate. I'd be like, man, Taylor's not here.
But it's a thing, bro. Ziyech.
Yes, it's a thing.
Morocco.
It's a thing. Donovan with Jurgen Klinsmann.
Yeah.
Technically, Cheech with Martino. Technically,
Throwing Sendejas.
Yeah. Throw it in there, man. Yeah. There's a lot out there, man, and I'm not liking it.
All right, folks. So today we're gonna go deep into the Brazilian national team. That's right, Brazil, the 5-time World Cup champions, the iconic country and team that has made a name for themselves and how they perform in this specific tournament. Let's go a little bit into Brazil's history first to start.
Oh, okay.
I want to start at
history lesson.
2002, when Brazil last won the World Cup 20 years ago. I was 7 years old, and I'll be honest, I didn't see it. I was too busy watching Blue's Clues, not Cafu. I was busy. And so in my experience, in my life, I've never actually seen Brazil lift the World Cup trophy, which is something I hope to experience one day, with how people remark about how magical it is to see a Brazilian team dominate the sport. 2002 comes and they win it. Iconic team with legends like Rivaldo, Ronaldo, Cafu, Ronaldinho, and so on and so forth. 2006 happens. They lose in the quarterfinals to France. 2010, Brazil loses to Netherlands. 2014.
That was inevitable.
2014?
No, 2010.
Oh, yeah.
It was a hard, tough team to beat.
Netherlands was on fire. 2014, it's the memorable loss to Germany, 7-1 in the semifinals. And that's the farthest they've made it since. 2018 comes and they lose in the round of 16 again, this time to Belgium.
Yeah.
And so here we are, 20 years past from when they last won the World Cup. And I want to establish a few things, because you've said it yourself. You believe this is the best Brazilian team since 2002.
Yeah.
And I actually am in agreement with you. I know that there's a debate with that 2006 squad potentially being better, but we're going to preview this team. We're going to give you reasons for why we believe this team might be past that squad.
Yeah, and to say why the previous teams aren't this squad, if you think about 2010, Brazil had a weird group stage. They barely beat North Korea, and then they immediately just got manned by a really, really good Netherlands team. Essentially, if you think about the best teams in 2010, Brazil weren't close to them. They really weren't. It was like in the finals, it was always going to be some version of Germany, Uruguay, Spain, Netherlands. Brazil was not in that top four by a long shot. 2014, Brazil were at home. So they really used that energy. And it was a really fun team. But if you think about it, they were low-key using some weird players, man. Like relying on Oscar and a combination of Fred, like Brazilian striker Fred, again, who did as good as they could for the national team. But when you look at what they have now, it doesn't even compare.
Well, that's what a lot of people are talking about. The 2010s might have been the darkest decade for Brazil with that 7-1 loss to Germany, but also the talent that they were producing wasn't up to the level of the 2000s and years past.
Yeah.
Now we have a team that might be what Brazilian people have been looking forward to. The Brazilians are itching for a deep World Cup run, and even more so a victory. And so that's how I'm going to set up the stage going into this World Cup. Can this be the year that Brazil finally lifts that iconic World Cup trophy yet again, and this time at the hands of Brazilian superstar Neymar?
Oof. And that is a perfect setup, because I think that's a setup that we have to go with, that everybody has to go with. If I'm going to get straight to the point, which I am, Brazil are title contenders.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
When you look at this squad, pound for pound, every single player in position, and I know people criticize that back line, sure, but we'll get there. We'll get to that soon. We'll get to that soon. But when you look just a little bit further up that pitch,
just look up a little bit.
Just look up a little bit.
Tilt your head up a little bit.
You see nothing but world-class players.
Greatness.
And it actually, you brought up a good point that I haven't really thought about. If you say that like post 2002 was up to 2022 was a dark time for Brazilian talent, for Brazilian product. If you look at this team now, bro, this might be a defining Brazilian team, not just for soccer watchers, but for people who tune in to watch soccer once every 4 years, and that is at this World Cup. Because I remember growing up, people would tell me Brazil, mainly talking about like 96 or 98, 2002. And then I watched them in 2010. I was like, you know? And I was like, they're all right. Uruguay's way better, you know? And then watching 2014 was really cool. But then, they just faltered at the very end. They unfortunately lost Neymar. And then 2018, I thought was a bust, man.
Yeah.
A true bust. But when you look at these players now that represent Brazil, you see that samba. You see that flair. You see that dance. You see the talent. You see everything that I heard about growing up as a kid of what a Brazilian player should be. And so I think now people who don't watch soccer and they hear Brazil too, because they hear the word Pele and all that stuff, I think they'll see this team and be immediately satisfied with what they see out on that pitch. Yeah. They'll be like, oh, this is definitely Brazil. And I didn't get that as a kid, but now I'm going to get that now here at this 2022 World Cup, man, because this team is stacked. Yeah. Absolutely stacked.
Going beyond just the eye test that you explained, you look at the numbers, man. One of the greatest qualifying cycles that Brazil has ever endured in their history. Yeah. Accumulating, I think, some like 45 points and actually having a game in hand. They didn't end up playing that last game against Argentina. Yeah. In 17 games, they scored 40 goals. Only conceded 5.
Dude.
Only conceded 5, man.
And actually, just so I can get in my small take here, I've said it before, South America is on the downgrade unless you're Brazil or Argentina. And you cannot convince me that, going to Bolivia or Ecuador is hard. It used to be. It used to be hard. You cannot play 17 straight games and not lose and say it's a difficult qualifying campaign. Brazil are that much better, sure, but the quality has dropped opponent-wise. But nonetheless, an insane feat for Brazil to go undefeated and score as many goals as they have.
And so they find themselves qualified for Qatar 2022. All right, so now let's look through the lineup to analyze what options Chiche has at hand, because this team is pure depth. It's pure depth.
Yeah.
We're going to start at the very back.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
At the very back, at the very beginning. For me, the clear-cut starter for this team is going to be Alisson.
Yeah.
Liverpool's Alisson.
And it's funny because, first off, I completely agree. No other keeper is going to start for Brazil at this World Cup. But it's funny because I wonder what was the deciding factor when Chiche decided this way back. Because this has been a decision that he made early on. And it's funny because both Alisson and Ederson are the same age. And honestly, I feel like they kind of hit this stage at a similar time. Yeah. Maybe Alisson a little bit earlier with Roma, maybe. And maybe that's why he went with it, because he was just like, he's at Roma, whereas Ederson was at Benfica. Maybe he just valued that a little bit more. Then they both obviously went to much bigger clubs and achieved greatness, both of them. But yeah, I'm wondering what ultimately decided why he likes Alisson. But he's gone with it since the beginning, and it's not going to change.
Yeah, I think overall, I think Ederson is actually better on the ball, but as a goalkeeper who makes routine saves, I think Alisson is safer. He's safer. He's bigger in the goal, and I think he has a stronger presence there. Yeah. And he can also play from the back as well. I think honestly up to that Ederson level. So I think for me, it's the clear option. Alisson is going to start. Yeah. But then you can also throw in for depth Weverton from Palmeiras, who if he becomes part of this squad, he'll continue the pattern of Brazil. Have you heard that stat where they've only ever won a World Cup when they have a Palmeiras player?
No, just like called up.
Yeah. All they need is a Palmeiras player to be in the squad, and they'll win a World Cup.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So they needed that Palmeiras player. Maybe Weberton, that's all he serves for this team at the end of the day.
He's a good luck charm.
Yeah. But he's also a very quality goalkeeper. Won 2 Copa Libertadores with Palmeiras. Been one of the best goalkeepers in South America. So he does deserve that call-up. So that's their depth right there. My goodness, at goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
You want to get into this defense, man?
Oh!
When we talk about the Brazilian national team amongst everybody who watches football, it's the defense that brings up the most discussion.
Yes. And I definitely see why, but I'm going to start with the 2 positions that I think are surefire starts for Chichen. And the thing is, people I think still disagree with this, but I don't see why. I'll be completely honest.
I think I agree.
I think the 2 starting center backs have to be Thiago Silva and Marquinhos.
Yes, sir.
It has to be. There are no 2 other Brazilian center backs in the world that play at the high level that they do, or have the same high-level experience that both Silva and Marquinhos have. I know people maybe say Silva's a little too old. He is, but he's still shown that it actually age for him doesn't matter. His IQ, his spacing, his decision-making literally has not missed a beat. And I think people criticize Marquinhos, and I don't know why. I see people say, oh, this backline, if they start Marquinhos, is just going to leak goals eventually, but Marquinhos is a solid defender, man, and he can get involved on corner kicks. He's so effective on both ends of the pitch, but when it comes to defending, which is what his main job is, I would completely trust Marquinhos to get the job done. So having those 2 center backs already would give me a lot of confidence from a goal protection perspective if I'm Brazilian.
Paired with Alisson as well. That's an incredible back 3 right there.
Incredible.
You have Rolls-Royce center back Thiago Silva, who knows the game as well as any other center back in the world. And when you got other center backs like Pepe starting for Portugal, that age factor doesn't really come to play for me, man.
No.
And then you look right over and you have PSG's go-to captain in a team that has Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe, Marquinhos.
Yes.
One of the most disciplined center backs in the game, and when he's on it, can be comparable to the likes of Van Dijk.
Yeah, he can be a wall, man.
So good, man.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I agree. I don't know why there's a lot of controversy over these 2 specific positions. I understand the further positions that we talk about, but for me, these 2 are pretty solid. And then if you do want to switch something up, you still have quality. You have Gabriel from Arsenal, who's an option as well. Yeah. You have Eder Militao, Champions League winner.
Yes. I think Militao would be the alternative in this situation.
Yeah, if someone gets injured or if there's something like that. Yes. Yeah. And then lastly, you have Sassuolo, best Serie A Defender of the Year winner, Bremer.
Yeah.
At your option, at your disposal.
Yeah. And he's looked, even though Juve as a whole looked bad, Bremer individually has looked pretty solid.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a weird influx of Juve players in this team too. That's
Dude, I know.
We're gonna have to talk about. But center backs, Thiago Silva, Marquinhos. We're pretty set on that.
And for me, I think it's just very, very easy, as those 2 are elite center backs. Yeah. And I would not be worried at all if they start.
Yeah. And now the biggest talking point is the fullbacks, because everywhere I see when it comes to Brazil predictions, Brazil analysis, people say strong attacking line, good midfield, even good center backs, but those fullbacks, those little fullbacks, they just don't do it for me. They just don't convince me. That's what everyone's saying. Let's look at the options. At right back, you have Danilo, Juventus Danilo. You have 39-year-old Dani Alves if you want.
If you want him.
Emerson Royal from Tottenham.
Yeah.
And then at left back, you have Sandro from Juventus as well.
Yeah.
And then you have Arana from Atletico Mineiro, who's been getting some call-ups.
He has recently. Yeah. He definitely has.
Alex Telles. And Colchonero's very own.
Renan Lodi.
Yeah.
For me, it gets very interesting, but I think it's not a nostalgic effect. It's more of like what they used to have very recently. Because when you think about what Brazil had for so long, you had Dani Alves on the right and Marcelo on the left. 2 of the most talented, entertaining, effective fullbacks the game has ever seen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
And so when you no longer have that, of course, you're going to be like, damn it, we're loose in those positions. Quality has definitely dropped, but it's because it has. But the thing is, I wouldn't be too worried about it, because when you take the scope of these fullbacks and you compare them to what all of the other countries have, sure, they're no Marcelo or Dani Alves, but still, players like Danilo, Alex Telles, Alexandro, hell, even Renan Lodi to an extent, are all still pretty goddamn talented, man. So, yes, it is not what Brazil used to have in those fullback positions, but I still think they're pretty solid. And here's what I think was probably going to happen, is what I think Chicha is going to go with. I think Danilo's for sure going to start as right back. Yeah. I think he's probably the most talented, the most sound, and he can do both sides. He's very comfortable going forward, but he's also a pretty decent defender. And then on the left side, this is probably the position where Chicha's going to have the most headache as to who he goes with. And I think it's going to be completely down to form. The reason why I say that, Renan Lodi has been getting a lot of starts, but not recently. And it's because of his form, man. Atletico actually let him go to Nottingham Forest. He's loaned out. Probably won't see Lodi play again for Atletico, to be completely honest. It's because his form is pretty heavily dropped from that perspective. When you look at Alexandro, too, for Juventus as a whole maybe have dropped just a little bit. And I think Alexander is one of those players that has actually dipped just a tiny bit in form. But what gets interesting is that it'd still be fine to play them. I know Alex Telles also is on loan from Manchester United to Sevilla, so his form is also just kind of taking a weird little hit. I'd say the right back with Danilo is completely fine. That left back possession is a little loose as far as quality is concerned, but still, if you have Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, and Danilo all alongside that left back, I think you're going to be ultimately completely okay.
Yeah, because these are still guys that play in Europe. Like, I just don't see them as liabilities.
Not a liability.
People are presenting them as liabilities, and you're completely right. Like, when you have like guys like Cafu, you know, winning you titles at that position, Roberto Carlos, Marcelo, Dani Alves, like these are the best fullbacks the game has ever seen. When you have that type of quality, of course, you're gonna feel a hit when it comes to these present talents.
Yeah.
But in the scope of international football, it's not that much of a downgrade, man.
No, dude.
It really isn't. No. Mexico would be ecstatic to have players like that.
Any one of them, bro.
But even more so, let's say that they are the weakest part of the Brazilian national team, which they might be. To me, the thing that gives me a lot of security is the presence of Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, and Alisson. Because to me, the top 4 teams this World Cup are Brazil, France, England, Argentina. After that, you can put in Spain, Netherlands, Belgium, whoever. But to me, those are the top 4 teams. And so I asked myself, well, if the fullback position is weak, then they're going to have to rely on those center back positions and that goalkeeper position. And who does Brazil have? They have Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, and Alisson. But in comparison to the other squads out there, France have Varane, Kimpembe, and Lloris. Yeah. I'm taking Brazil's all day.
Yeah.
England have Maguire, Stones, and Pickford. Brazil wins that
matchup easily, yeah.
Lastly, Argentina will probably start Lisandro Martinez.
Probably.
And Cristian Romero.
Yeah.
With Emi Martinez at back. I think that's the one that comes closest, but even then, I'm still taking that Brazil back 3 first beyond any of those. Yeah. When you talk about Brazil having a weakness, they have a strength and what's there to make up for what the fullbacks can't do.
Yeah. Hella good coverage.
That's a hell of a safety net, man.
Yeah, bro.
Like, what else would you want if you're a Brazilian?
Exactly.
That's an amazing safety net. And so, for me, I feel a lot of security at the end of the day. Yeah. Sure, they won't dazzle. They might not produce those magical moments.
Yeah.
But all in all, for what this Brazil has up front, I think you're completely fine.
Oh, bro. Yeah, absolutely. So, to just finish that left back position specifically, I think, sure, it is probably the weakest link from Brazil. But if you compare to literally any other team at this tournament, it's still pretty goddamn strong, dude. And what's interesting, too, is that Roger Ibanez, who's playing very, very well for Roma right now, just got the call-up. And I could see a situation where if Chiche really wants to cover that side and not go with an offensive fullback, maybe like how Danilo is, he could actually play Ibanez wide left. Because right now, Ibanez plays in a back 3 as that wide left center back. And how many times do we see center backs, and when a coach wants to go defensive, just put them in that fullback position. They just don't go forward. They just stay back. That's completely fine. And if Chiche really thinks it's a defensive weak point, just put Ibanez as that left back, and you completely cover it. So either way, Chiche can find a way to make this Brazil backline as strong as it could be against any team at this tournament.
Does Dani Alves get called up?
I'm going to ultimately say no. And I think the biggest reason why is probably just because he doesn't play in Europe anymore. I think that's the biggest reason why. Obviously, coupled with the fact that he's goddamn near 40 years old now. Yeah.
It's just a little too past it.
It's just a little too past it. Yeah.
Maybe even if it had happened last year when he was at Barcelona.
Maybe
he would have gotten that color. But now it's just a little too past
just a little too late. Yeah.
All right, let's move up. Let's move up to the midfield, which is another stacked area for the Brazilian national team. Now you have depth in that center defensive mid position with Casemiro back at it now, still playing at a high level with Manchester United now finding his form there, but we already know what he's capable of.
Oh, yeah.
Casemiro is a rock star in that position.
Oh, dude.
But even more so, man, you have Liverpool center defensive midfielder Fabinho.
Yeah.
Also there as an option if needed, who's actually gotten more call-ups recently than Casemiro has. There's a big debate of who starts in that position, but also what formation is Chiche gonna go with? Because he's definitely gonna have a backline of 4 players. That's what he always has. But from what I've seen, he goes with one of 3 formations: a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-3, or a 4-4-2. That's going to define that midfield lineup for me. How do you think he's going to approach this tactically?
I think tactically he's going to go with either the 2 formations that give him 2 holding midfielders. I don't think he's going to have a single defensive point, and instead he's going to pair them. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the case, I could easily see a 4-4-2. Maybe more realistically, I see a 4-2-3-1, something like that. And if that is the case, if I say that he's going to have 2 holding midfielders, I think it's going to be Casemiro, and then alongside either, and this is where it could get interesting, Chiche could decide this, either Fabinho or Manchester United Fred.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, Fred has actually been playing a lot, especially in this last year and a half for Brazil. Chiche likes him.
And he's good.
No, and he's good. And that's the thing. Fred, at the end of the day, is actually a pretty good holding midfielder.
We see what he's capable of.
Exactly.
System, man.
Precisely. It only benefits Fred if Ten Hag finds this form for Manchester United, because Fred is a part of the squad, even in the starting 11 for Manchester United, even now. Yeah. He's been Manchester United starter for the 4 years that he's been there, man. He's a very, very good midfielder. And honestly, he fits into this Brazil team perfectly. So I see Casemiro and Fred playing. But if you don't want to play Fred, or maybe you don't want to play Casemiro, you have perfect alternatives and Fabinho, and also Newcastle United player Bruno Guimaraes, who's actually been coming on the scene recently and getting some decent calls by Chiche.
No, in other options than Coutinho as well, if you want, but maybe that's not the choice for center defensive mid. When he's gone 4-3-3, Paqueta gets a start in the midfield. You also have Arthur as a potential option.
Technically,
haven't
seen much of him recently.
But from Chiche's perspective, it's a mix of Casemiro, Fabinho, or Fred usually.
That's how I see it, and that's what I'm going to completely assume. I don't think there's anybody else on his mind when it comes to those center of the park midfield positions.
So let's assume it's going to be a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's what I've seen the most at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I'm fine with that. And to fill that midfield role in the center, I actually do think that Paqueta is going to be that higher point right behind the striker and right in the middle of the 2 wide players.
I agree.
Chiche likes Paqueta, man. Yeah. He loves him, dude. Yeah. And he has complete faith in him. He has complete faith in him. And honestly, he produces. He's Brazilian.
Yeah.
He's at the very core, Paqueta is a Brazilian creative midfielder. Yeah. Honestly, very similar to Kaká. Not as effective, obviously, because Kaká at his peak was one of the best players in the world. I don't think Paqueta has reached that level yet, even close. But Paqueta, at the end of the day, still has those same attributes. Incredibly skilled on the ball, but also an excellent distributor. Also, in transition too. You need Paqueta to just go at a player. He can too. He can also get involved in the box, score a couple goals. So Paqueta's, for me, the perfect attacking midfielder number 10 role that Brazil could offer right now.
You can keep going, man. You know I love Paqueta, Lucas, man. I love Lucas, man.
I think he's going to start. I really do.
I went through and I circled who I think is a certified starter for this team.
No, it's Paqueta. Yeah.
Alisson, Marquinhos, Thiago Silva, Paqueta.
Yeah.
Up to where we're at right now. Yeah. I think Paqueta, because there's even a debate for Casemiro, Fabinho, who starts.
Slightly.
Paqueta's starting, bro.
100%.
Chiche is going to find a way.
Yeah.
He's going to find a way.
But it reminds me of when Chiche, I think for one specific cycle, constantly played Renato Augusto. Even though he was playing in China. He just liked him. He was like, this guy's starting for me. I don't care what anybody else says. He's my Brazilian holding midfielder. And it's the same thing for Paqueta, but just as the attacking midfielder. It doesn't matter who else is in form. It doesn't matter who else It doesn't matter who tells Chiche to play. Chiche's like, nah, I'm playing Lucas.
No, and that's a good thing because that's going to give Lucas so much confidence leading up to it, bro.
Yeah.
He's built a chemistry with Neymar, Vinny, whoever else is up there, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But he's a certified start on this squad, man.
Certified.
So possibly Casemiro, Fred as holding midfielders. Maybe interchange that for Fabinho and Fred.
Yeah.
And then up in that attacking midfield position, Paqueta. Let's talk offensive options, man. It's world class, man. I think this is what Brazil has been missing for the past decade.
Yes.
Is offensive depth. There's been an over-reliance in Neymar and what he can achieve and create for this team for the past 10 years, and it's notable, man. You see it. That's why I think you saw that 7-1 defeat against Germany with him not being there. And you saw it especially in the 2018 World Cup with how much of that team relied on him to just create for them.
And once he got shut down, the rest of the Brazilian team had nothing. Yeah. They had nothing. And that's why they ultimately lost against Belgium, because Belgium just manhandled them once they figured out how to defend Brazil. And all you had to do at that point was guard Neymar.
Yeah. I know about two certainties here. And I researched and saw that Chiche has said it himself. He said if healthy, Vinny Jr. starts on the left, Neymar starts in the middle. That's what he said. If healthy, that is his go-to option. He showed that during the qualifying cycles, that those are going to be the two biggest certainties for this Brazilian team when it comes to their offensive options. You look over on the right, and I think it's between two players, but even then, I think it's a clear-cut first option. With Barcelona's Rafinha and Manchester United's Antony. And for me, Rafinha starts.
For me, I have Antony starting.
Whoa, okay.
I think Antony is just a little bit more in form right now, just overall. What I've seen from Rafinha at Barcelona, he's obviously doing really well, but I don't know. Rafinha, when just off the eye test, Rafinha's missing a little something. And for me, what it is, it's clinicalness, whether it's like on a cross or just the right decision. I don't know. Then again, I haven't seen a lot of Antony because he just made that transfer to Man United. He just got there, but he did make a hell of a debut, though. He made a hell of a debut. So I think this will come down to form ultimately up to the tournament. Yeah,
that's exciting. Like now, when you watch Barcelona Manchester United games, keep in mind that Chicha is watching these games to get his answer to who gets that right wing position.
Yeah, and again, right now, I would say I would take Antony. I would. But there is a scenario, there is a situation where Rafinha just starts going off for Barcelona. But I think from a clinical point of view, from a guy that I could rely on to make a big goal-scoring opportunity and actually make it, I think I trust Antony just a little bit more over Rafinha. But here's the thing. Starting Rafinha, not really that much of a downgrade. No. It's like a 1% downgrade, in my opinion, and that's it. So whether you start Antony or Rafinha, I don't think it's actually a mistake if he goes with Rafinha, in my opinion. But I would start Antony.
And that's the thing about this team offensively, that there really aren't many mistakes that you can make. I mean,
yeah, man.
Gabriel Jesus could possibly be on the bench. Yeah. On the bench, man. Roberto Firmino, that experience, that know-how is going to be there.
Yep.
Martinelli, could he get called up possibly? Rodrigo from Real Madrid. Richarlison. Pedro from Flamengo.
From Flamengo, yeah.
Mateus Cunha from Atletico Madrid. And Gabigol from Flamengo. That's who you have at your disposal. And the thing is, though, for me, the front three is pretty clear with the interchangeability of Antony and Rafinha, because all these other players look set to come off the bench for that added element of energy and whatever is needed at the time. I feel like they're all going to embrace that. Assuming they're healthy, Vinny Jr., Neymar Jr., and then Rafinha or Antony, I don't see any other player really breaking into the starting lineup based off what we've seen from Chiche and just the talent that is at hand.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. All the players that we just listed in every single position, wide left, wide right, and central, those are going to be the players that Chiche calls up. And as you said, the majority of them know that they're going to be coming off the bench, right? They know their role, but I think that's actually a good thing.
Yes.
But my ultimate takeaway on this front three, I think for me, 100% you start Neymar, obviously. I mean, I'm not even going to go say why. We're starting Neymar, 100%. I think you start Neymar 100%. I think you start, in this case, either Antony or Rafinha. I'm going to just go ahead and say Antony for my little spiel right now. I think I'm going to be a little critical of Chiche here if he doesn't start Jesus. I'm going to be completely honest. I understand why you want to start Vinicius wide left, though, right? Neymar and Vinicius occupy the same position at club level, left. Obviously, Vinicius can only play left. Yeah. He cannot play on the right. He absolutely loves the cut inside. It's all he really knows how to do, but he's so good at it, you can't stop him. So you have to play him on the left. You have no choice. So what does that do with Neymar? Well, Neymar obviously has the talent to go anywhere else in that front three. You could put Neymar wide right if you wanted to. I think that'd be a waste.
Put him at fullback.
Low key, bro. Put him in that left back position, bro. He'd probably be completely fine. But what Chiche is electing to do, how do I start Vinicius? Well, I have to start him wide left. So that means I have to move Neymar. I'm not going to put him wide right. So I'm going to start Anthony in this case. So the only other place that Neymar can go is going to be central, in that kind of false nine drifting position. Obviously, he's done it before, and clearly it's definitely worked because they have not lost a game. But the thing is, the way that Jesus is playing right now for Arsenal Football Club cannot be ignored. So much so that Chiche's got to look at himself and be like, I got to find a way to put Jesus in this front three. I have to find a way. And in my opinion, that way is you put Vinicius down to the bench, you put Neymar wide left, and you start Jesus as your target 9 up top. That's the only way I see Chiche making this front three truly elite and truly as good as it can be. If, in my opinion, if he does not start Jesus as in that number 9 position, that is a mistake. I think that is the only mistake Chiche can make in this entire squad, is if he doesn't start Jesus. And it's clear, and it's only because of how Jesus has started off this season. If this was a year ago, I'd be like, don't start Jesus. Don't play him. You don't bring him off the bench. But the way he started for Arsenal, man, is ridiculous. Not even just statistically. I think he has 4 goals in 8 games, 50% goal scoring ratio,
3 assists,
and 3 assists. And that type of goal scoring ratio in any league is phenomenal. But not only that, his link up play with all of his players, whether it's Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli, Udegaard underneath him, is low-key very similar to the personnel that Brazil have. You have direct player in Anthony or Rafinha, whichever one you want, but then you have creative flair player Neymar on the left in this scenario, where he can either cut inside, cut deep, or go out wide and send it across to Jesus. Or Jesus can go play with his pocket player in Paqueta. He plays in a very similar system at Arsenal, and it would only benefit Chiche to put him in the same system here at Brazil, because it's a translation. It's not an adaptation that Jesus would have to make. And we've seen how well Jesus has combined, linked up with his Arsenal teammates. If Jesus can do that with his Brazilian teammates, which I don't see why not, I really don't after what I just said, then you have the deadliest front three at the World Cup. If you don't play him, though, obviously Vinicius is incredible, but then in that regard, you have 2 direct players in Anthony, Rafinha, and Vinicius, and then you have a little bit of flair with Neymar. You start Jesus can be both direct, physical, and engaging, but he also has that flair and technique, as we've seen him score incredible goals and get incredible assists right this season with Arsenal. And I'm a little scared here because I don't think Chiche is going to go with it. I'm a little scared.
I actually don't think he is.
And I think it's a genuine mistake.
I think it's a question of what type of offensive mix he wants to create. Does he want something that's more direct, or does he want something that's more creative? For me, the Vinny Jr. Neymar mix is more creative, but it might be too much creativity. Yeah. It might be too much indirectness. Whereas if you put in Gabriel Jesus, it's very clear what he does for you and what do you have to give him. Because of the state of the Brazilian team and where they're at right now, the fact that they were able to qualify that the way that they did, I don't see Vinny Jr. and Neymar Jr. being a bad decision. Nor do I see the same with Neymar Jr. on the left and Gabriel Jesus down the middle. I think this is just a signal of how tight that decision is going to have to be for Chiche, and a decision that he'll probably have to make during the World Cup.
Yep.
Because he can't get that answer anymore.
I don't think
he
so.
won't. He's going to get that answer mid-game against Switzerland in his first the first match.
Yes.
He's going to realize that, okay, if we want to be able to penetrate efficiently, we might need Jesus. Or the opposite. Vinny Jr. might have a masterclass of a game.
Right. And he can.
And he won't have that option to it. You'll have to leave him on there.
Right.
So I think it does signify the conundrum he is in and how tight of a decision that is. I wonder if within the whole scope of the national team, if it is that important. What if it is good enough, Vinny Jr. and Neymar Jr. to just start? What if that is good enough for them to be able to go deep into the World Cup? Whereas the same might have happened with Gabriel Jesus as well. I think it's just a matter of preference at this point, almost.
It definitely is. But just from all of my experience, from what I've seen, you need a striker to win a World Cup. You need one. And you don't even need one that can score goals, but you need one that knows how to play with his back to goal. You need one that knows how to just be a nuisance in the box. Yeah. We saw Giroud do it in 2018.
Giroud was amazing. He was huge for that French
Huge.
team.
All he did was build, link. His number one priority was not to score. Yeah. It wasn't. And the thing is, Jesus can link. He can build, but he also can score. He's also a lot better than Giroud when it comes to efficiency in front of goal. And if there comes a point where, yes, you have penetration, and penetration like no other with Vinicius on the left, Neymar can't do hold-up play for 90 minutes. He can't. Yeah. It's not what he does. Now, obviously, he has the talent to do anything, and I'm not questioning Neymar's ability. What I am questioning would be Chiche's tactics in that regard, because by not starting Jesus, Chiche's telling me something. He's saying, I don't need a target man, and I don't think I want one. Yeah. And by making that decision, I'm critiquing him by saying he's making a mistake, because I think to be the deadliest offense in the world, you have to have an elite striker, and you already have that in Jesus. To not play him, I think, is a mistake, because you have it. It's not like Jesus is a striker and he's shaky.
Yeah,
it's not like Jesus is just trying to struggle and find form at Arsenal because he's with his new club. Jesus has been off it from the start this year with Arsenal. You have arguably one of the better strikers in the world right now in your colors for the national team, and Chicha would be electing to not even start him.
I do think
and for me, that's a mistake.
I think it's incredibly bold, man, to go with
It'd be incredibly bold.
Much younger player, Vinicius Jr., who had his rise just last year. Versus Jesus, who was at the World Cup 4 years ago.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more experienced. I don't know. I do think it's a very bold call. It's very bold.
I do. Yeah, it's very, very bold. And I'm already a little scared, man, because he didn't call him up for these two friendlies. And earlier in the pod, we talked about Coach Ego. And this might be one of those cases, man. And I know apparently he had a conversation with Jesus. All Jesus said was, I can't blame anybody but myself. All I can do is just be better at club level. I have no idea what that means. I have no idea what that means. Whether Chiche picks him and doesn't start him, I think it's a mistake. If Chiche doesn't even call him up at all, I think that's an enormous mistake. Jesus, for me, has to start at the top position, number 9 for Brazil at this 2022 FIFA World Cup. And I'm a little scared here, because if Chiche just doesn't do that.
But on the same side, it's not like Vinny's like just some average left winger, man.
He's not.
He's phenomenal.
But I'm talking
about. He started off the season hot too, man.
Oh no, he started off great.
Yeah,
he started off phenomenal. But I need a striker.
Yeah,
I need a number 9. Just from
tactically,
yeah. Philosophically,
yeah.
I need a target man. And the fact that you have Jesus, play him. But not only that, it seems like Chiche is anti-Arsenal too, because he didn't call up Martinelli or Gabriel, the center back. Yeah. He didn't pick any of the 3 starting Brazilians that play for Arsenal. So that's interesting too. Now, obviously, he said, well, he's trying to look at new players. Sure, because he called up, for example, Pedro and Roger Ibanez. But then why didn't he pick Martinelli, right? Martinelli is doing great right now. He's looking incredible with Arsenal. And if he's looking at new players, Martinelli hasn't gotten that much call-ups.
Yeah.
Why not pick him?
Yeah.
So I'm a little worried about Chiche's ego right now. I'm going to be completely honest. Now, of course, at the end of the day, he'll probably pick Jesus, probably. And it'd be crazy if he didn't. It'd be absolutely wild if he didn't. So I'm not going to go there yet and say that Chiche has a huge ego. But I'll find out a lot come that first day when he lists his Brazilian 11. I'll find a lot about Chiche as a coach, man. Similar to Luis Enrique, because we were talking about how, is he going to pick Cucurella? Didn't pick him.
Yep.
Hasn't picked Cucurella, and I think that's just down to ego and down to he's not in my plans, so it doesn't matter how good he's playing, he's not coming. Just like you talked about Tolman.
But that ego's what got him a historic qualifying campaign too. it's what's kind of forming this amazing Brazilian squad already too. So I think it's tough, man. I almost wish that he had struggled a little bit during the qualifiers so that he could look towards other options. It's like his plan worked almost too perfectly. Too perfectly. And like I keep saying, he's gonna end up having to make that decision while the World Cup is happening, which is gonna be amazing to see. Like if he ever switches up that team sheet, it'll be fascinating to see what psychologically went behind the scenes
bro.
for Chiche.
And that'd be fascinating. And just to be very, very clear here, yes, I would say that Jesus not being started is a mistake, but you still have a world-class front three regardless. I'm not saying that not picking Jesus is a complete downgrade, but he's so good that I think you have to start him. If he doesn't start, you still have an incredible offensive three. An incredible
The moment
one.
that Neymar loses the ball, trying to hold it up, you're just going to be screaming at the TV, bro.
Absolutely.
Everybody's screaming. The first time he does it, too, you're just going to be on his ass about it, man.
Oh, bro, I'm going to be... like I said, I still think they'll be so entertaining to watch, but I will be genuinely upset, pissed if Jesus does not start, just from a football fan perspective.
It could be the decision that defines whether if Brazil can win the World Cup or not.
Yeah,
might
no,
be
it could be.
Important. Neymar Jr., man. What a story, man. What a career he's
I was
had.
thinking about that the other day, just like for fun.
The journey that he has gone through at club level, but also international level. I remember when I was watching the 2014 World Cup, the idea of a 24-year-old Neymar at the time, having the pressure of a country who was hosting the tournament on his shoulders, fascinated me.
Dude, he
man.
was asked to win the World Cup.
Yeah.
An entire nation from the moment that he was 17 at Santos, they're like, you hear the echoes of the next Pelé.
Yeah.
Obviously, the historic club Santos, also where Pelé played when he was coming through the Brazilian league, and you hear this guy Neymar wins the Copa Libertadores in 2011, and there's so much build up to 2014 because there was talks of should Neymar go to Europe beforehand. Would it be a mistake? Because what if he just doesn't play? Because he would go to Barcelona and you have Messi and Luis Suarez and there's just too much talent. Pedro, right? Would Neymar be an immediate fit? Why not stay at Santos so he can get game time and be match fit and match ready to play for Brazil? That in and of itself, an insane storyline, man. And to see it culminate to what ultimately ended up happening at the 2014 World Cup was incredible. Mind-boggling, dude.
Yeah.
The amount of pressure is just ridiculous.
Yeah, but the type of player that Neymar has become with his move from Barcelona to PSG, that being the most expensive player I think of all time right now, but also culturally what he's been known for, like his antics, the way that he flops on the field,
right,
but also his incredible ability to get by a player, the dribbling that he has at his disposal is incredible. One of the best dribblers I've ever seen. Just the type of player and enigma that he is. 2018 happens and it's another disappointment. It really is, but it isn't his fault because really that responsibility was given to him unfairly of asking him to do things that was too much for him to do.
Oh yeah.
Something that the whole team should have done, not just him. 2022 is his chance to do something special.
Yeah.
And I get chills thinking about it, man, because he knows it.
Oh, he knows
Neymar
it.
knows it.
Yeah.
It's truly the first season that I've seen Neymar approach with a purely results-driven focus. Mm-hmm. He is out here just looking to win as many games as possible at the club and international level.
Yeah.
He's looking to play his absolute best solo and team football.
Yeah, produce on all fronts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Putting up assists, putting up goals. He's almost at double digits within Ligue 1 already.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's playing with a mentality I've never seen him before, man. He's hungry. Mm-hmm. He is hungry. He is eager. And he's building himself up a season arc that I am excited to see progress at the World Cup with what could be a World Cup victory. Because the idea of Neymar lifting that World Cup trophy after everything he has been through within the media, within the teams he's been on, and the teammates that he's had, to see that culminate finally in a World Cup trophy for this specific player, man, would be awesome to see. Yeah. Would be awesome to see. As a fan of the sport, as a fan of the Brazilian country, and as a fan of his legacy. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Winning the World Cup this year would be absolutely vindicating for a player like Neymar. So many critics, man. So many critics, but an equal amount of supporters. People who genuinely just love watching Neymar play the beautiful game, man. And I'm one of those people. I think a lot of people are. But yeah, it'd be so vindicating for him to do it because he's come from nothing in Brazil, made his name with Santos, went to Barcelona, was part of that huge front three. And that's kind of what I was getting at is that in 2014, there was that weird transition from South America to Europe for him specifically. But then he was also asked to lead a nation
Yeah.
in his home country. But then in 2018, things still weren't sure for Neymar club-wise, right? He had just left Barcelona. He was at PSG. But, you know, he got a lot of criticism for that move, especially early on, bro. Especially early on. And obviously that was just probably in his head for a while. And the PSG squad itself weren't really sure what to think about Neymar too. He wasn't the captain. He wasn't their go-to guy. He was just kind of like a superstar that came to Paris.
Yeah.
But now, in 2022, as you just perfectly laid out, Neymar is going off at PSG. But it's because he is PSG now. He is now at a club that he's completely involved in offensively, but also like low-key spiritually too. When people think about PSG now, Neymar's tied to that club now because Neymar has become that. And so when you take that such positive energy at club level and you translate that to the amount of talent that you have at this Brazilian international team, this could lead to something great.
Yeah.
It really could. If there's a time to do it, as you said, he knows. I think this is that time, dude.
Yeah.
It's set up perfectly.
Yeah, it's set up to be if he has that godlike moment of being able to lift the World Cup, it'll be an iconic image that goes down in the history of the game.
Yeah.
It'll be looked at in the same way that Cafu lifting the World Cup trophy in 2002, as Cannavaro in 2006, Casillas in 2010, the list goes on.
Yeah.
It'll be Neymar 2022, the immediate candidate for a Ballon d'Or.
Bro, yes. Bro, yeah, the immediate candidate.
If he wins it, I just pray that he continues to stay fit because he is the ultimate piece that Brazil needs. They need him to be able to win the World Cup.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of the talent they have at hand, it's Neymar who's going to be able to push them even further into that elite status.
Yeah.
And so I hope that we can see it, man. I hope.
My ultimate takeaway going into the World Cup just in general for both Brazil and Argentina, in the sense that I'm not convinced by South American competition. I'm not. So much so, the only thing I'm worried about for Brazil and I'll go ahead and say Argentina is, can they do it against a really, really good European team who play, you know, overall a different style of football, something that's so different to mid to lower tier South American teams. And can they do it on the biggest stage? Let's say they play Serbia and Serbia just take it to them. They play that hard European football where it's just tight, but then they have like a couple of players that can actually hurt you. What do Brazil do? Are they used to that? Because when it comes to World Cup qualifying, they're not. Club level wise, sure. But when you're out on that pitch, you have to rely on your teammates. And if you're not used to that type of pressure together, that could definitely be a weakness. I 100% agree. This was my ultimate take on why I don't think Brazil or Argentina will lift the trophy at the end of the tournament because of that. Because of that constant competition that European teams face and Brazil and Argentine teams don't. What do they do? Again, I guess we'll find out to see what type of coach Chiche is. But it isn't to say that they can't figure it out because these are elite players. Absolutely elite players. But I guess for my whole takeaway on this whole Brazilian squad, even if I just look past positives and weaknesses, I want to see the product. I just want to see it. I want to see what this 11 can do out on the pitch in the World Cup. Like, I'm done analyzing. I'm done speculating. Screw it. Don't start Jesus. I don't care anymore. I want to see what this Brazilian team in 2022 is actually made of. And I am so excited to see what they do because I don't know. I really don't know. All I know is that they're going to dazzle and that they have one of the most talented and stacked teams at this tournament. But I'm done analyzing. I'm done speculating. I want to see what they actually do. And, hey, this is what we're here for.
I've never seen Brazil win a World Cup. It's been 20 years since they last won it. And as a football fan, I've always yearned for that, man. Honestly, to be able to see even just a South American win the World Cup. I haven't even gotten that luxury, man.
And you won't.
Europe has dominated for decades. And I've always looked for that moment where I can genuinely believe that a Brazilian team can lift the World Cup trophy. In years past, I haven't felt that, man. I just haven't felt that. And especially in 2018, I didn't feel that.
Oh, no.
I feel it this year.
That's dope.
I feel it this year, man. I said it, 5 months ago when we made our early World Cup champion predictions.
Okay.
I said Brazil back then. I said that's who I would pick, but time passes. Maybe my opinion changes. It's not changing, man.
Yeah.
I have Brazil lifting the World Cup trophy for the first time in 20 years. I have Brazil reminding everyone of the prowess that they are capable of on the biggest stage of this sport.
Yeah.
And I have Neymar Jr., the boy who's been critiqued, the boy who has been under siege for the entirety of his career, finally proving his doubters wrong, his critics wrong, in tears, lifting up the World Cup trophy for the first time in his career, and joining the icons that we know of this sport in this country, such as Ronaldinho and all those.
Yeah.
Brazil's winning the 2022 FIFA World Cup. I know it's early into our analysis and our predictions, but I think this is what I'm going to stick by.
Yeah, no,
I think this is my pick.
It's a good pick.
I think that they have too much. I think that their World Cup qualifying cycle cannot be ignored, despite what region they are in, to achieve what they achieved amongst 17 games is incredible. Even in Little League football, man, it's tough to see a team go 17 games without losing, man.
Right.
It's an incredible feat.
Right.
But not just that, the way they did it. 40 goals for, 5 against, man. 5.
That's why.
And people are complaining about the fullbacks.
That's
5,
so true.
5 against, man. It's fascinating, man. It's fascinating. They're only going to continue building up that momentum that they built from those qualifying cycles. Chicha gets it right, and we see Brazil lift the 2022 FIFA World Cup. We go back to this video. I look like an absolute prediction king getting it right. And Neymar wins the Ballon d'Or. That is my prophecy and my prediction for this World Cup and this Brazilian team, man.
You just described Neymar's wet dream, dude. Oh, my God. That sounds incredible, bro.
It's time. And I think it's with this team. So, folks, that's who we're going with. Those are our calls here. My final predictions, Brazil wins the World Cup. How far do you have them going?
I have them as, first of all, I have them as genuine title contenders, as in I could see them lift the World Cup. But as far as just predictions are concerned, I'm going to say they ultimately won't. But I think they'll get pretty damn far, man. I have Brazil going to the semifinals and putting up a hell of a fight. And they're going to be beaten by a team, but by a really, really good team. We're going to be entertained like no other. But I don't have them lifting it at the end of the day.
Real quick, it looks very, very likely that if Argentina come out in first in their group and Brazil come out in first in their group, they'll meet in the semifinals, assuming they both win up to that point.
Right.
Can you imagine an Argentina versus Brazil semifinal matchup, man?
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine that? That'd be one of the most hyped up games in the history of sport for me, man.
Bro, no, like just in general, man. It'd be like probably one of the most watched games in history. Yeah, solely because Messi and Neymar are out on the same pitch for their countries at one moment in time.
With the opportunity
to go to a final.
To go to the final. Oh, my God, man.
Yeah, that sounds insane.
God. I have Brazil winning that matchup. If that happens, I have them winning it.
If that happens, I have them winning it. And then I don't know who they lose to.
But okay. All right, so you're going semifinal exit.
I'm going semifinal exit as a prediction, yes. But they could lift it. Okay. They have the talent.
Yeah. All right. So, folks, it's time. Let us know in the comments.
Yes, sir.
Everything you have to say about our takes and also this Brazilian national team. How far did they go in the World Cup? Will they lift the World Cup trophy? Neymar's legacy. I need to know y'all's thoughts on that. But, man, so many questions and so many things to find out as we get closer to the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Remember to let us know what you think in the comments. Who should we do next? What country should we analyze next? But for now, if you stayed up to this point, thank you for watching, and we'll be back again soon. Peace, guys.